The air crackled. The ground trembled. The monstrous shadow loomed, growing larger with every step they took. Its silent scream echoed in their minds. Terror lent speed to their feet. They ran. Arav, Maya, and Kabir stumbled through the dense forest. Branches whipped at their faces, tore at their clothes. They didn't dare slow down, not with that thing on their trail.
This way!
Arav gasped, pushing through a curtain of leaves. A narrow path opened up before them, winding through ancient trees and gnarled roots. They didn't question it, they just ran. Behind them, the monstrous shadow roared. Arav's breath hitched in his chest, his legs burned with exhaustion. But the memory of that night years ago fueled his every step. The night the shadows first came for him. He was just a boy then. He watched helplessly as his father, the village tantric, battled a different kind of darkness. A darkness that possessed a young girl, twisting her innocent soul into something monstrous.
Arav, stay back. This is not for you to see.
His father, a beacon of strength and wisdom, had always been his protector. But that night, even he seemed small, insignificant against the consuming darkness. Arav squeezed his eyes shut, trying to banish the memory, but the past clung to him, as relentless as the shadow on their heels. Arav's father, Pandit Devan, was renowned throughout the village. A holy man, a scholar of ancient texts, he possessed an uncanny ability to commune with spirits. He could heal the sick and ward off evil. Villagers sought his counsel for everything from mundane matters to supernatural afflictions.
I used to watch him for hours, preparing for rituals. The scent of sandalwood and incense. It was mesmerizing.
He'd listen, wide-eyed, as his father recounted tales of ancient spirits and forgotten curses. But deep down, a seed of unease had been planted. He knew the world held a darkness that most people couldn't even fathom. And he knew his father walked a dangerous path, confronting that darkness head-on. The night of the exorcism was etched into Arav's memory. The air hung heavy, thick with dread. The possessed girl, barely a teenager, thrashed and convulsed on the floor, her voice transformed into a guttural growl.
By the power vested in me, I command you to leave this innocent soul.
His father, his face etched with concern, chanted ancient verses. The air crackled with energy. Intricate patterns of colored sand formed a protective circle around them. The flickering light of oil lamps cast grotesque shadows on the walls.
I was hidden behind a curtain, watching in terror. I could feel the malevolence in the room, a palpable presence.
The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. The girl's screams intensified, tearing at Arav's heart. He wanted to run, to hide, to pretend this wasn't happening. But he knew he couldn't leave his father. Not now, not when he needed him most. Suddenly the chanting stopped. An unnatural silence descended upon the room. The girl lay still, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths.
My heart was pounding. I dared to hope that it was over, that my father had won.
Then it happened. A burst of energy ripped through the room, shattering the protective circle. The oil lamps exploded and the room plunged into darkness.
Father, no!
Arav cried out, his voice lost in the chaos. When the dust settled and a single flickering lamp was relit, the scene that greeted Arav's eyes would forever be seared into his nightmares. Two figures materialized from the shadows. One, a grotesque apparition of swirling smoke and rage, the vengeful spirit his father had tried to exorcise. The other, a hulking demon, its eyes glowing red in the darkness, its claws dripping with an otherworldly ichor. They stood over his father's broken body. The spirit let out a triumphant shriek. It was a sound of pure malice, a victory soaked in blood.
Father, please!
Arav screamed. He rushed to his father, his small hands clutching at his blood-soaked robes.
Father, please!
He sobbed, his voice raw with terror and despair.
Arav!
Pandit Devan's eyes fluttered open. A weak smile touched his lips.
Don't be afraid. But the shadows...
Arav stammered, his eyes darting fearfully to the monstrous figures that stood motionless, seemingly observing them.
They are real.
Pandit Devan gasped, his hand trembling as he reached for Arav's face.
But so is courage, so is the light.
He took a shuddering breath, his grip on Arav's hand tightening.
Fight them? But how? S2. Media. Intense conversation. Promise gesture. Promise me. Arav. Promise me you will fight them. The knowledge, it is yours now. The scrolls, the rituals. Learn them. Protect. Protect the innocent from the shadows.
And then his eyes glazed over, his hand went limp. Arav stumbled back, his father's lifeless hand slipping from his grasp. His mind reeled. Grief threatened to consume him, but even in his despair, he knew what he had to do. He looked back at the monstrous figures. They hadn't moved. They seemed to be waiting, watching him with an unnerving patience. He felt a surge of defiance rise within him. He wouldn't let fear control him. He wouldn't let his father's death be in vain.
I promise. I will fight you. I will protect them.
The spirit let out a chilling laugh, the sound sending shivers down Arav's spine. The demon's eyes glowed even brighter, as if acknowledging his vow. Then, with a flicker of shadows, they were gone. Arav stayed by his father's side long after the first rays of dawn pierced through the darkness. His grief was a heavy cloak, but beneath it burned a fierce determination. His father had dedicated his life to protecting others from the shadows. Now, it was Arav's turn. Years passed. Arav dedicated himself to his father's legacy. He immersed himself in the ancient texts, learning the rituals, the chants, the secrets of combating the supernatural. It was a lonely path, fraught with danger, but he never wavered. He traveled across India, seeking out whispers of the supernatural, stories of forgotten temples and haunted ruins. He honed his skills, facing down malevolent spirits, dispelling curses, and battling creatures that lurked in the shadows of reality. Each victory, however small, strengthened his resolve. Each encounter with the darkness reinforced the weight of the promise he made to his father. But some shadows, he learned, were harder to escape than others. The memory of his father's death, the chilling laughter of the spirit, the demonic glow of the creature's eyes, these haunted his waking hours and tormented his dreams. And so Arav found himself drawn back to where it all began. The whispers had led him here, to the heart of India's oldest forest, to the legend of the forgotten shadows. They were said to be harbingers of chaos, ancient entities of immense power, capable of plunging the world into darkness. He was no longer a scared boy hiding behind curtains. He was a man, tempered by years of study and experience, his heart hardened by loss, his spirit fueled by a promise forged in fire. He would face whatever awaited him in this forest, whatever shadows lurked beneath the surface. For Arav knew deep down that this quest was about more than just fulfilling a vow. It was about confronting his own demons, about making peace with the past, and about finding his own light in the face of overwhelming darkness.